this is the power forward list, and this is another one of those lists that was really close. And honestly, I had a really hard time with the next two categories, the power forwards and the centers. I had a hard time making this list.
Me too.
Now, my one for this list wasn't difficult. My two, to five to honorable mention, honestly, was kind of hard to kind of sort out. I have some guys left off the list that people aren't going to like at all. But starting off with honorable mention, or guys that you wish you could put in the list but you could never really justify, who do you have?
Obviously, yeah, Dennis Rodman.
Yep, Dennis is one of my honorable mentions as well.
I think I would like to put in the round mound of rebound.
Okay.
Just because I never saw him play. I mean, I never saw, Kevin McHale, part of that 80s Celtics team. Great player. Great,
Yep.
resume. But, oh, and then that other guy, I can't justify putting him on this list. I didn't even put him on my top five. I worked around him. I didn't.
Oh, no, he's not. No.
The NBA celebrated his birthday.
I
Like, what
saw
are you
that.
guys doing?
No, we don't. Yeah, we don't say his name around here. But no,
Yeah.
he's not on my list. He didn't even get plucked out of guys I even check stats for. He's not going on my computer history, search history. I'm probably gonna get flagged from the FBI for even searching him. So I'm not even putting him on there, man. I have a couple of guys honorable mentions. I'm basically going to say everyone who was on my list that I looked up, because the list was that close. My lowest graded player on my list, and people aren't going to like this, Dirk was my lowest graded player on my list. I wish I could put him in my top five. He's not there. Dennis Rodman is another guy who's honorable mention. Someone else I put in this list too, because I wanted to see how his numbers stacked up with everyone else. The boxing Rocky Balboa himself, Draymond Green. I put him up there. He actually stacked up nicely when it comes to other guys in his numbers. He didn't grade out the lowest. He graded out higher than Dirk. People can discount everything that he's done because of the punches he throw, and I don't like Draymond as much as the next guy. But guess what? You're talking about a 4-time champ, a 1-time DPOY, an 8-time All Defensive guy, a 2-time All NBA guy. So we could say what we want to say, but the guy still had a significant impact on those teams. So,
I can say this confidently. He was the glue that held the Warriors together.
dude, he's the de facto, he's the glue guy in 2K. Okay,
Yep.
he's
Two-way glue guy.
Except
Except it's not two-way. He's a one-way glue guy.
Hey, to be fair, he does have the second highest 3-point percentage out of the guys on the power forward list, only behind Dirk. So,
He was a bucket before he hit the Warriors,
no, yeah.
even in his first few years.
Okay, so starting off at your number 5, who's your 5?
I had put Giannis
Okay.
very, very early, but I can't. Oh, see, that's where it gets hard because there's Anthony Davis too. I could throw him there, but I originally put Giannis.
Okay.
5 for now.
Okay.
Just I think he's not even in his 30s yet, so I think he has a long way to go.
I think Giannis might barely be 30.
But yeah, we'll just stick with Giannis, I guess. Even though I can't stand him.
You can't stand him.
No, James Harden said it perfectly. I can run and dunk. Like if I was almost 7 feet tall, and I just run and dunk, I would do that.
He's 29. He's 29 and 234 days old. Yeah.
But I think
man, I'm going to be in full disagreement with you because Giannis ranks higher on my list.
It's all right.
Like a lot higher on my list.
It's all right. I just can't stand him. That's really it. I can't. I have these 4 other guys on here. I think I would rather play them.
Yeah. I get it. You mentioned my number 5, and my number 5 is Anthony Davis.
Okay.
So AD's my 5, and there's going to be guys out there who do not like that. Specifically Drew, the other co-host, he does not like AD, not even in the slightest. Granted, he's a 1-time championship. He's a 5-time All-NBA. He's a 5-time All-Defensive selection. He doesn't have a DPOY, but if we're being honest, The man puts up so many numbers that he probably should have been at least in selection for one of those stupid ass Rudy Gobert depoys that is fucking ridiculous. He's a 3 times blocks leader. He leads all of the power forwards in 24.1 points per game. Some people forget that, before he was 80 on the Lakers, he was the brow from the Pelicans, and the man was absolutely disgusting. 24.1 points per game, 10.6 rebounds per game, and then he's second in this group, 1.3 steals per game, and tops off the list at 2.3 blocks per game. Still third on the list for field goal percentage and three-point percentage at 52.3 and 29.7 three-point percentage and field goal percentage. It was kind of hard not to put him in there. I think the championship, whatever you want to say about the championship and the Mickey Mouse thing, or if you think it's no in between. Some people think it's the hardest NBA championship ever, or people think it's the easiest and it doesn't even count. It's like, okay, so we're not counting the guys who played in the 50s and 60s and they played against guys who were 5'1" and other guys were like 6'11". So let's fucking relax.
Yeah, see, I don't discount that championship at all.
I don't
because I heard somebody explain it. I think it was one of the NBA players. You
Yeah.
are living in your arena essentially.
Yep.
You don't have to hop on a plane. You don't have to travel anywhere. You go
Yep.
down to the hotel lobby, eat some damn breakfast, go to practice, go up to your room, take a nap,
Yep.
and you don't leave the facility.
Yep.
You are well rested every single day.
Yep.
I don't
Absolutely.
discount that championship at all. I think that was a very well earned chip. They fought for that. That was a great finals to watch. I love that finals. 2020, fantastic.
It's almost like there's no home court advantage. There's no playing on away. It's just everyone's fully rested, fully ready to go. It's like your best players against their best players, and whoever comes out on top, it's truly whoever's the best is the best.
Right.
Some guys took full advantage of it. Other guys couldn't take full advantage of it, and the Lakers did, and they won. At the end of the day, it's still guys playing in the NBA, guys still competing against each other. I don't know what would discount it so much to not count. So I'm not sure where the argument, the disconnect is there.
Those guys are the same ones that don't discount Kevin Durant.
Yep.
I would discount Kevin Durant before I discount the 2020 chip.
100%. And I think as we get further away from that stuff, further away from COVID, further away from the bubble, I think the appreciation will come at a later point in time. But we're talking about post LeBron retirement, post AD retirement. I think we're going to get closer to that on appreciation.
Yeah.
It's not going to be anytime soon. Not
No.
even close. Your number 4?
I had to go with Kevin Garnett.
Wow, you're 4. Okay. Now I don't know who's on the rest of your list. I thought maybe you and I would have the same one too.
I'm a mystery. We still
Okay.
might. I think we have the same number 1, but
We probably do. I'd hope so.
it's if yeah, I think Kevin Garnett. He's just a shit talker. He's
Yep.
he's a Draymond that came before Draymond,
Yep.
and he was the OG, and I think he was very dominant.
Yep.
Granted, he was put in Minnesota.
Yep.
9 All-NBA teams, 15 All-Stars, 1 depoy, 9 first-team defensive teams.
Yep. 12 overall.
12 overall. 18th in blocks all time.
Yep.
9 in
4-time
rebounds.
rebounding leader.
So I think, granted it's 1 title and only 1 MVP, but the 1 MVP is more than a lot of people have.
Yep.
I think he was very dominant.
Absolutely.
I loved KG.
Yep. And I think we're talking about one of the greatest, I think, pure defenders of all time. I think his build of what we see is a little bit ahead of its time in terms of the taller, lankier type big man.
Yeah.
We see them now, right? We see guys like Wemby. We see
Yeah.
guys being drafted right now, and like Alex Sarr, who's a power forward, right?
Yeah.
We see guys who are tall and lanky and can move well. Kevin Garnett was that before those guys came about. Now,
Yeah.
I mean, we're not talking about a guy who could shoot, the 3 incredibly well, 27.5 3-point percentage, which isn't awful. It's not the bottom of the list. We're not talking about Tim Duncan. But we're still talking about not consistent enough, right? But we're still
Yeah.
talking about a guy who's full force, averaging 17.8 points per game, and where am I at? 10 rebounds per game, 3.7 assists, 1.3 steals, 1.4 blocks. So I think his build and his type was a little bit ahead of time. I think guys don't really realize that, and they see Kevin Garnett now, and he's funny, and the stories are amazing, and the shit talking is awesome. My favorite clip of all time of KG is him getting real
Trash
close.
as.
No, I like him getting real close to the camera when he was on the show with with Stephen A. Smith, and he was like, Wilt Chamberlain will be rolling over in his grave if he knew a 7'4" Frenchman was nutmegging a guard. He was like a 6'10" power forward who's playing center, jumps this high off the ground. It's the best player in the league, and he gets up off his seat and he walks away.
Yeah, dude.
KG's awesome, and he's a great media personality. But before that, he's a dominant defensive player. He's a guy who's ahead of his time. He's a guy who's a prototype for guys that we see today, not as the best shooters, but I think if he grew up in the era that some of these guys are, he would have been a better 3-point percentage shooter because he would have worked on it growing up.
Yeah.
I think KG would have been an incredibly successful player today because he brings all the things that you want to bring, and he wouldn't have played power forward. He would have played center every single day of the night. Like that's what he would have played every single night because they don't care about the size as much in the NBA. Some of it, yes, obviously when you're a monster at 7'4", like Wemby, you're gonna play center. But he's still dominant. So for me, KG is a lot higher than you. I get it. He's your 4.
Yeah.
Charles Barkley is my 4. I know you said he's your honorable mention. I think Charles needs to get some love. He gets a lot of hate. Another guy who's a great media personality today, and everyone loves to see him and Shaq go back and forth. But before that, no championships. I get it. But also he played with the Suns, and he had to go against guys like MJ. So, and he's doing that shit by himself. He's a one-time MVP, 11-time All-NBA selection, one-time rebounding leader, 22.1 points per game, 3.9 assists per game, which both of those rank third among the guys that I pulled off my list. He ranks second in rebounds per game at 11.7 on the guys on my list, 1.5 steals per game, which leads everybody on my list, 0.8 blocks per game, also second in field goal percentage of 54.1, which is only a little bit less than Giannis. And then 26.6 3-point percentage as well. So for me, I think Charles deserves a lot more credit. The era that he ended up playing in just was not the era that he could thrive in, unfortunately. It's just he had to play against MJ, right? That's the unfortunate part of it, and some of these guys that we see today who play against LeBron in the Eastern Conference, they're never going to win a chip because they had to play against LeBron.
Yeah, LeBron show is a thing.
That's just part of it, right? I mean, guys who played on the Bulls, guys who played for the Celtics, before the Celtics won this year. But he's also in the West. So, like LeBron's in the West now, and finally Boston can go ahead and they can push up. And these guys aren't going to win because of certain greatest players of all time. And Charles is one of the unfortunate parts of it. John Stockton, we mentioned in the first part of the podcast. He's one of those unfortunate souls that just could not ever get past, playing against MJ. And Charles is one of those guys too. So,
I mean,
I think
there's more
Charles deserves
examples.
that fourth spot.
No, for sure. I think Charles definitely does not get love.
Yeah.
I think they kind of overlook him now and see him more of the TV personality comedian type.
Oh yeah, and they always clown him. You don't have any chips.
Talking about championships.
Totally get it. He's the only guy on this power forward list that doesn't have a chip.
Yeah.
All the rest of the guys on my list have a chip. Even on the honorable mentions, they have a chip. He's the only one.
Yeah.
But none of those other guys had to play against MJ. It's a big difference there.
Yeah.
So, and Anthony Davis played with LeBron.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like Westbrook or Harden. They never got further than Steph Curry would allow them to.
Yep.
So
absolutely. Yep, for sure. Who's your 3?
I'm curious to see if this guy is on your list. I wouldn't be surprised if he is.
He's probably not.
Who do you think it is?
No, I'm just saying it's probably not because every single guy that's on the list has already been mentioned by you. Like we've already mentioned the rest of my guys.
Pau Gasol. Pau
No,
Gasol is
no,
entered the number.
Pal's not on my list.
Okay.
I didn't even pull up anything for him. To be fair,
Okay.
go
That's
ahead,
right.
make the case for Pal because I didn't even take the time or the respect for Pal to even pull up his numbers and put them in the spreadsheet.
It's just a simple fact that we're showing love to our European brothers. All right. 2 titles, obviously, with Kobe. 4
Yeah.
All NBA, 6 All Stars. I think he was just a very all around, well constructed big man. I think he did it all.
Hmm.
Um, and I think him being traded with his brother really kind of helped that.
Absolutely nuts, by the way.
I don't think Marc Gasol would have gotten it done. I think Pau is the more agile, well-rounded player.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm glad that Pau got his too. But no, I like Pau. He's a very, very solid all-around passing, shooting, rebounding big man. He was a hustler.
Yeah.
He was an absolute hustler. So that's my 3. Who do you got?
My 3 is a guy you've already mentioned before, and he's the surprise spot. And I'm saying you already said, oh, he's already at this point. I think he's already higher than where you even place him.
Giannis.
Giannis is my 3.
right.
Some people will really dislike that, not for the fact that it's just Giannis. Some people are going to really hate that fact because people are like, they romanticize the Brooklyn Nets, KD, Kyrie. Oh, they should have won. They should have won that series. Like, they romanticize that like
What
so
if
much.
his fat ass foot wasn't on the line and it was a
Yeah,
3-pointer?
Like if you didn't wear like size 400, shoes, then maybe you would have. You didn't have clown shoes. Maybe you would have actually made it, but you didn't.
Yeah.
And like, why aren't we crediting Giannis for beating this super team?
Yeah.
Instead, we want to romanticize. Oh, they should have won it. They should have got a chip, and they're all like depressed about it. It's like, why the fuck are we romanticizing like? Like 3 of the biggest like locker room cancers on the fucking planet.
Yeah.
Like why and I get it. Like Kyrie's good now. Like he has a place actually for himself in the NBA.
Yeah.
But like we're acting like he didn't kind of push himself out of Cleveland because he wanted to be the one. We're acting like he didn't push himself out of Boston because he's a punk ass hoe. Like we're acting like he didn't like push himself out of Brooklyn because of his, religious or political views. Like we're acting like he didn't push himself out of every single one of these places.
Yeah.
Like we're acting like he doesn't still believe the world is flat. Like this is world be flat Kyrie Irving. Like this is insane. Like we're acting like James Harden is one of the biggest locker room cancers on the planet. You wanted these guys, these 3 locker room cancers to win? That's crazy to me. You're not voted like you're not inspired by the guy he comes from nothing and he comes in and he actually wins in the NBA and he actually develops himself to be a talent and to be a top 3 player right now, a top 3 in my opinion power forward of all time. People hate success stories when it's too successful. They love the success stories at first. They're like, oh my gosh, good for him. He won an MVP.
But
Actually,
then when he
he's won
beats
2
your
MVPs.
favorite team, you're like, oh, fuck that.
It's like, oh, that's ridiculous. He's
Yeah.
a 1-time champ, 2-time MVP, 1-time DPOY, 8-time All NBA. Right now, he still has a lot of years left to go ahead and kick up that list. The guys ahead of him, Charles Barkley with 11, easily can catch him. He's going to pass Kevin. He's going to tie Kevin Garnett this next year as long as he stays healthy. Dirk is 12-time, and he's probably going to get up to that point as well. I don't know if he's going to get to the 15-time level because I don't know if his game lets him play to that point that long. But 5-time all defensive selection. He's 23.4 points per game, 4.9 assists per game, 9.8 rebounds per game, 1.1 steals, 1.2 blocks. Leads the entire group in field goal percentage in 54.5. I just think that yes, I know he's 7 foot tall and he can run and dunk and that's all he could do, but it's like that's a lot of what only LeBron could do at the beginning of his career. And it's so unstoppable. And he still shoots 28.6% from the 3. Obviously, you want that to be more consistent, but he's a power forward, and he's still more consistent than some of these all-time guys. More consistent than Tim Duncan, more consistent than Kevin Garnett, more consistent than Charles Barkley, Dennis Rodman. The only guys who really beat him are AD and Draymond, who are guys who play today, but they play a different role.
Yeah.
So to me, Giannis, he's the leader of his team, and that's what I think you have to be for getting into the top three, right? Tim Duncan, leader of his team, right? Dirk didn't make the list, leader of the team, but the numbers just did not suffice to actually get him there, in my opinion. I couldn't justify making up some of these numbers. Again, Dirk graded out the lowest for me on my list, so I just couldn't make up that much. Dennis Rodman, never a leader on his team. Anthony Davis, a leader on his team for a certain period of time, but since he's not a leader on his team, or a couple of years he wasn't a leader on his team, he is once again now. But Draymond Green, never a leader on his team. Like, Giannis is the de facto best player on his team, not even close. I mean, we're looking at a Giannis who could probably win MVP again next year, and maybe the next year after that. Like, he's still good enough to do that.
Revenge season.
Like, I think there's a lot of fatigue on Giannis and how good he is, and I think we forget because how bad the Bucks were last year. Giannis is a top 3 power forward already up to this point. I don't think it's really even all that close to me.
Yeah.
Who's your 3? Go ahead.
I already told you.
Oh yeah, okay. So who's your 2?
Who's your
then?
2? No. We're going
okay.
your 2 because you just said my number 2 wasn't there.
KG. KG's my 2.
Yeah.
So we already kind of went over KG, and we went over why he's there. I went over why I think he should be higher and why he is higher on my list. You know, being a prototype for the power forward position and defensively and all that stuff. I already went over my 2. So go ahead and go over your 2 because I think that's what's interesting. If I don't even have him on my list,
it's Dirk.
Okay, yeah,
it's Dirk. I can't. All these other guys that you mentioned, I can't discredit how the team that he took down to get to that point where he's at. The hardest path to the finals, I think, to this day.
Okay.
And I could be forgetting some finals runs. And once again, we're showing love to our European brothers. But I can't. Dirk was phenomenal. I think Dirk was also, like you said about KG, I think he was ahead of his time.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I mean, you look now at the 7-footers, Cat, you got Wemby out there shooting threes, you got all these 7-footers that are, not relying on it, but are more comfortable shooting that 3 ball. Yep. Obviously, the post game has been a lost art for a while now.
Yeah, so he's he's like the tail end of the post game.
Right.
He's the very last person to utilize it to the fullest extent that it has been utilized.
Yes. I mean, obviously, I think he passed some of that off to Luka. Sidebar, fuck Luka.
Yep. They're not gonna like that one.
I don't give a shit. You internet thugs.
Subscribe, dude. Hey, we like being hated on. Go to subscribe.
You internet thugs can suck my nuts, dog. I swear. All the kids. Okay, I meant to say this last time. All the kids that say you don't know ball, they only focus on he has a bag. He only focus offensively. It don't matter. You guys, seriously, you're one-sided because they look at Kyrie Irving and say, oh, what dribble moves can he do? Oh, my gosh. Oh, how can I cross this guy up? Get out of here with that shit. Yep. Anyways, Dirk, number 2. One of the hardest chips of the past decade.
Yep. And I think our number 1 isn't even really close when you're talking about a 5-time champ, a 2-time MVP, a 15 All-NBA, and all-defensive selection.
My God.
We're talking about 19 points per game, 3 assists, 10.8 rebounds per game, 0.7 steals per game, 2 blocks a game, high field goal percentage, and then, not the highest three-point percentage.
Mr. Fundamental himself, the greatest power forward of all time. Oh, I love this guy.
Yeah, old heads are gonna love Timmy D. But he's not the most exciting guy to watch at the end of the day. He's really not. But you don't win 5 chips, be the centerpiece of that team. You're the best player on that team, bar none, and you still win 2 MVPs off of it. He's not exciting to watch. But at the end of the day, you don't have to do the exciting things. If you had to do the exciting things every single time, other guys would have won MVP. Other guys would have won champs.
Yeah.
But they didn't. And, he's not a prototype of coaching. This is who Tim Duncan is. Yeah. He's fundamental, but he's also get to the basket, and he's going to He's gonna put every move on you that he can. He's gonna
work your ass in the post for sure.
He's gonna dissect you, and that's not the most exciting thing. It's like MMA fans, right? With the original like MMA fans who watched MMA before like even UFC 100, they appreciated a lot of like the ground game and the dissecting of that. But a lot of guys don't like guys like Khabib, right? Who was obviously retired, but a lot of like Islam and all those guys, like they don't like those guys because they're all like ground game. They're fundamental.
Everybody wants a first round knockout.
Right, that's what they like. They like the knockout stuff, right? I get it. I miss John Jones as much as the next guy, but let's relax. John Jones is also like one of the greatest wrestlers of all time in his weight class. So like,
right.
Tim Duncan is like in that same thing. Like Tim Duncan doesn't do the most exciting things on the planet, but he's still the best in his weight class at the power forward position. I don't even think it's really like that much of a discussion.
No, it's not. It's a very large gap between 1 and 2. Like no matter who even you put here, if you put Karl Malone. If you put, anybody, you can put any other power forward in that 2 spot, and it's seriously, the gap is not close at all.
Yep.
I did not just cut that from the video. Cut it. Fuck.
I think Tim Duncan's he's in the same reign as you put. It's not a discussion for MJ. It's not a discussion for LeBron. It's not a discussion with Tim Duncan. If you go look at our point guard video, you'll go see who we put at 1. And there's a discussion for 1 and 2. But between the shooting guards, small forwards, and power forwards, I don't think there's a discussion. Even if we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at the centers next, there's a discussion for 1. But for those 3 in the middle, there's not a discussion for those guys. And it's really not anything to debate about. So honestly, at this point, we could just go ahead and move on to the center position.